Charles Darwin, of course, he makes this confession about seeing in the vision, about the vision. To suppose that the eye, with all its inimitable contrivances for adjusting the focus to different distances, for admitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest degree. Basically, Charles Darwin says the theory of evolution is absurd in the highest degree. Now, just to make you understand how irrational the theory of evolution is, we'll make an experiment altogether. We should take a barrel, something like this over here. We can put into this barrel, or the evolutionist scientists, they can put into this barrel whatever they would like to, which they think necessary for life. They can put calcium, magnesium, silicium, iron, all these protein molecules, enzymes, DNA, whatever they think which is necessary for life, they can put into this barrel. And they can heat it up. Or they can lower the temperature. They can do whatever they would like to. They can give electricity. They can stir it up. They can do this for millions and millions of years. They can bring all these evolution scientists in the world in front of this barrel. They can consult each other. They can wait in front of this barrel for millions of years. They can put their grandchildren in front of this barrel. They can do whatever they would like to. It will not come out from this barrel. Tigers, squirrels, doggies, cats. It will not come out from this barrel, the scientists who take the electron microscope and do research on their own bodies. It will not come out from this barrel, all these beautiful plants, flowers, fruits. It will not come out from this barrel because inanimate matter coming together does not generate life. The owner of this life is Allah. The God owns and creates life. God creates the beginning, the end, and all intermediate stages of life. And the life is the reflection epithet high of Allah. Fred Hoyle, he is a very famous, prominent British astronomer and mathematician. And he's also an evolutionist. He made this confession about the origin of life in famous Nature magazine. He said, the chance that higher life forms might have emerged in this way is comparable to the chance that a tornado sweeping through a junkyard might assemble a Boeing 747 from the materials therein. Even the children know. Of course, a tornado sweeping through a junkyard doesn't make Boeing 747 because Boeing 747 has a very specific design and function. It requires high-tech factories. It requires thousands of engineers, thousands of workers, years of research, millions of dollars. So basically, Fred Hoyle says life to emerge by coincidences is impossible. It must be created. And he goes on. Indeed, such a theory that life was assembled by an intelligence is so obvious that one wonders why it is not widely accepted as being self-evident. The reasons are psychological rather than scientific. This is exactly what's happening. The reason why the theory of evolution is defended against all these scientific evidences, although all the scientific evidence proves the fact of creation, the reason why it is defended all the scientific evidences is not scientific. It is ideological. Darwinism is a dogma. Dogma means a belief. It is a false belief of the 19th century. It is defended against all the scientific evidences just to keep atheism alive. And Allah says in the Quran, it is He who originated creation and then regenerates it. That is very easy for Him. His is the most exalted designation in the heavens and the earth. He is the Almighty, the All-Wise. Now we have seen that life emerged by coincidence is impossible. The emergence of life proves the fact of creation, creation by God. The second question was, what are the mechanisms of evolution? Now we will check the so-called mechanisms of the evolution. Neo-Darwinism, which is the mainstream argument today, claims there are two mechanisms of evolution: natural selection and mutations. According to Neo-Darwinism, mutations cause some random changes in the DNA, in the genetic information of the living beings. And according to Neo-Darwinism, these cause some traits to be developed. And again, according to the evolution, the suitable traits are selected by natural selection, they say. Therefore, the species evolve. Now, we will evaluate this hypothesis scientifically. First, natural selection. Natural selection was first popularized by Charles Darwin. He erected his entire theory on natural selection. That's the reason why he gave the title to his book, Origin of Species. Origin of Species by means of natural selection. However, since time of Charles Darwin, there hasn't been even one single piece of evidence to show natural selection as evolutionary power. What is natural selection? Well, natural selection claims that the living beings, which are more suitable to the natural conditions of their habitat, they succeed and they produce offspring, which unfit will vanish. Take, for example, the herd of deer over here. You see a herd of deer over here. If this herd of deer is threatened by the predators, something like this over here, of course, the ones who run faster will survive. That is true. However, no matter how long this process goes on, there will be only faster running deer. It will not transform the deer to other species such as horses, because natural selection doesn't increase the amount of genetic information. It does not add new genes. It doesn't add new proteins, new enzymes. It does not generate new organs. It does not generate brand new species. It does not have evolutionary power. Natural selection only eliminates the weak and sick individuals. It doesn't have an evolutionary power. And Charles Darwin, again, he was aware of this fact. That's the reason why he made this confession in his book, Origin of Species. He said, natural selection can do nothing until favorable variations chance to occur. And as the cause of these favorable variations, Neo-Darwinism has had to add mutations. What are mutations? Mutations are random, accidental changes in the DNA of the living beings. Mutations are breaks or replacements in the DNA of the living beings. They are usually caused by external harmful effects, for example, by X-rays, chemicals, ultraviolet radiation. Mutations are accidental changes. However, they only harm the living beings because any random change in a complex structure, such as the DNA of the living beings, it has incredibly complex structure, only harms the living beings. And we know this from observation. For example, in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Chernobyl accidents, they were generating millions and millions of mutations, and we only observed cancerous, handicapped, crippled patients just like this over here, and they died because of mutations. There are more than 4,500 different genetic diseases known in the human beings caused by mutations. According to the scientists, 99% of the mutations cause harmful effects. They are harmful. And only 1% they are neutral, which means they are not harmful, but they are not useful either. However, evolution theory requires mutations to be beneficial for the living beings. Again, observations definitely falsify this claim. Mutations are only harmful for the living beings. Only 1% of the time they are neutral. They are not harmful, but they are not useful either. Again, for example, this animal you see over here is crippled by mutation. This leg sticking out from the back of the animal, extra leg, is caused by a mutation. And because of this mutation, this animal is being crippled. So basically, all the observations falsify the claim that mutations are beneficial for the living beings. Pierre Paul Grass, he is the most prominent, one of the most prominent biologists of the entire Europe. He is the former chief of the French Academy of Sciences, and he's an evolutionist. He makes this comment on mutations. The opportune appearance of mutations permitting animals and plants to meet their needs seems hard to believe. Yet the Darwinian theory is even more demanding. A single plant, a single animal would require thousands and thousands of lucky appropriate events. Thus, miracles would become the rule. Events with an infinitesimal probability could not fail to occur. There is no law against daydreaming, but science must not indulge in it. Basically, for mutations to be beneficial for living beings, Pierre Paul Grass, the former chief of the French Academy of Sciences, he says, do not daydream. Mutations cannot be beneficial for the living beings. And this is also verified by the experiments. Evolution scientists, they have done experiments on fruit flies. They gave external harmful effects and generated millions and millions of mutations. So they experimented this. Basically, all these experiments failed because millions of mutations, not even one single positive mutation. And they have done this for more than 60 years in the laboratories. For more than 60 years, millions and millions of mutations, not even one single positive beneficial mutation.